So we discussed last night the meaning of the word oir and the concept that oir has an inherent, has a gvul. If oir is contained in kelim, then it functions, it illuminates only within a certain criterion, in a certain environment. Beyond that, it does not illuminate. Like we pointed out in a simple example of the home for a person, the principle of a home can be indefinite. From the perspective of the rotzin and oineg and the nefesh of the person, like we say, the melech has no limit as to what he can identify as his home. But then the average person, he identifies his home only that which he can conceptualize in his seichel. That which he cannot visualize and project in his seichel, this is his home, then it becomes extraneous, and on the contrary, it is counterproductive to being a home. And this is the pshat, that because it's nigbal al dei hakelim, therefore the hispashus is only by atzilus. Which means, in our misham, to whatever extent we grasp it, but you have to grasp it for a moment. As we said yesterday, that which the seichel compels, this is the atzilus element. The reason that the seichel compels it is because in the seichel there is sense, it felt that there is a neshama reality behind it. It is not the seichel itself. The right and wrong of that seichel is not due to the seichli element, but it's due to the reality that where the seichel comes from, the neshama element. That is, where the seichel is part, is within the atzilus, within the connection, within the realm of the neshama itself, of the rotzin and oineg.
It doesn't work. If you stay on this one, I think I have enough power.
What doesn't hurt? What's the matter?
He's having issues calling in. I don't know if it's...
Oh.
Did I leave a green notebook on the table?
Yes. Is that yours? Check my talazekel.
Oh.
It's in the black bag. I thought it was Yitzchok's. No, in the black. No, up in the top zipper.
Yeah.
There's a black bag over there. Check that. Is that yours?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You got it. Together with the black bag. You can even have the bag.
Thank you.
So the principle that it is nigbal al dei hakelim is as follows. Initially, this oir is life itself. It is rooted in the nefesh element. But then, coming into the world, it is absorbed by the seichel element. Does it make sense? Where is it? How is it going to be? In that element of the seichel, that extends only to a certain limit. Beyond that, it does not reach and does not touch. Okay, we'll still have a chance to talk about it, but this is just a preliminary thing. Now, Rebbe concludes, the last Kaplan's concludes, the principle that we were seeking to identify all the time. Ve'im Neumar, okay, 2 lines from the bottom. Page Chavov. Ve'im Neumar, if we should say, She'o'oir da'atzilus, that the oir of atzilus, who b'fchines bli gvul mamos, is of the quality of bli gvul mamos. What does mamos mean? Bli gvul mamos, limitless mamos in reality. I have to go back and kind of reiterate what we already said. The principle of bli gvul on a relative level. I'm going to introduce a situation which I think will be even easier to identify with. If you hang up a picture on your wall, the picture is hanging because there's a nail that holds it up. When you're perceiving the picture hanging on the wall, are you identifying the picture with the nail that's holding it up? In other words, you're saying it's there because there's a nail there. The nail is totally besides the point. As far as you're concerned, the picture is held up by the human spirit. It's there because this is a human home, and it has to be there. It's held up by the spirit, by the oil of the human being. This oil of the human being that identifies this picture on the wall is now being contained and being brought down to a physical level where it is being held up by a nail. And the human being himself, to whom this picture means so much, that he wants it to be on the wall, does not in any which way feel that he is violating the supremacy, the ruchnius and the holiness of this picture, that he's hanging it up on a nail. There's a din, for example. Okay, I'm going off a little bit, but you understand where I'm coming from. The Apidin Torah, there is such a thing as an eved, a slave. A slave, a Jewish slave. It's a valid relationship, it's a valid possession. There puts some certain limits, but nevertheless, he is a slave. He must obey what his master commands him to do. And if he doesn't, the master has the right to hit him, to force him to do what he has to do, what he wants him to do. Hitting him The Rambam says you have to be careful. You have to have Rahmanas at the same time. But nevertheless, that is part of the ownership of the relationship. This habit is purchased with money. When this habit is purchased with money, then you may want to advertise and say, I have an habit. And as I said, as it used to be, they put the habit up on the platform, and people come and examine the habit. Does that fit my home? Does this fit what I need? This is called put him on Eben HaMakoch, on the stone that presents his merchandise. This is so demeaning for a human being to stand up on this stone as merchandise to be examined. This is osur. You're allowed to put a Jewish slave on Eben HaMakoch. It is also true that there are certain types of services that you may not request that you do. Because they're too demeaning. In other words, if you are going to put this human being into a keli, into what he's able to do, into the service that a human being can provide, it has to be contained on the level of seichel, that it makes sense that he should be put into that view, into that category, but not beyond that. Beyond that, you cannot take him. The limit is that he has not lost his human stature. He is not his own man, he is not free, but he hasn't lost his own human. The services are within the human purview, the radius. This is called that you put this phenomenon into a keli. In other words, you identify this phenomenon, this reality, exactly with boundaries. But what can you identify with boundaries? That which is bounded. The limit element of the human being, but not the unlimited element of the human being. The bli gvul mamush. What is the bli gvul mamush of a Jewish person? Do I have you with me? What is the bli gvul mamush of a Jewish person? His services are not bli gvul mamush. So it says clearly, Li b'nei Yisrael avodim. Avodim are my slaves, are my servants. Hashem declares that. They are part of my entourage, no matter how far they descend. That element, that they belong to me, that cannot be usurped. You can take a certain limited aspect of the human being, his ability to serve, but not him as a presence. This is in effect exactly what we are talking about. There is Ein Sof Mamash. Mamash means that this is in the godly realm. It cannot be fit into a keli in a worldly keli, in a keli. It cannot be defined. What does it mean? It means, from the worldly perspective, you cannot define it. What can you define in a keli? His functional abilities, his seichel, his midas, his talent. If he is a watchmaker, the master can force him to make watches without paying him for his services. The pinnacle of that illustration of his talent is Nokev Margolius. Nokev Margolius means he bores holes in pearls. Pearls need a very fine protruder in order to string them. This is a very great talent, a very great skill. And an abbot who can do Nokev Margolius is of a certain caliber. That can become part of being an abbot. But the fact that Liben Yisrael Avodim, Avodai Asher Yitzei Yisrael Me'eret Mitzrayim, Lo Yimachal Mikirah, that cannot be solved. That cannot be usurped, taken away from him. This is called Bligvu Mamush. What means Bligvu Mamush? It is not part and parcel of his existence. It's part of the Creator's play, a part of him. This cannot be changed. It cannot be defined in the worldly terms, in a cave. I think this is clear enough, and as we talk, all kinds of different illustrations come up, but I don't want to go any further in this. I think it's quite clear. Let's look inside. Again, 3 lines from the bottom, okay, of page 1. Whereas the oil atzilus that was nigbal, that was bounded to the keli, that brings about that his pashtus is only in atzilus, not beyond atzilus. That we said in this motion. This is nigbal al dehakeli, but it cannot go beyond that which can be put in a keli. His reality cannot be put in a keli. As long as it's atzilus, what's atzilus? Atzilus is that where there's a cognizance that there is still the human being left. There it can be nispashed. It cannot go beyond the other. Now the Rebbe says, if we should say, if we say that Oid Atzilus is Bligvu Mamosh, this is the true Bligvu, a Bligvu that is not part of the functioning of the worldly presence, but a Bligvu which means it's a godly Bligvu. How is it possible that this oir should be mislabish in keli, should be imbued and contained in keli? Again, this is what we said in the motion of the home. that the principle of a home in a human being could be of different calibers. If the human being is of that caliber, that he can encompass the whole world, you cannot put that spirit into a home. But can put it in a home a limited spirit. When the home represents the human presence in the world. But if he senses that his presence is in the world itself, then you cannot contain it in a home. This is what we have the example of a melech, a king in the true sense of the word. You know that Chassidus talks about a king, not a vicious tyrant, but a king of high caliber, who is supplying spirit for his whole nation. When he has a national, or perhaps even broader than a national, sense of value, he cannot be contained in a keli. His view is always broader outside of the bounds. So how can it be nislabesh bekelim shezeh b'bchinas kei hagvul? How can it be nislabesh in kelim shehem b'bchinas kei hagvul? As we said, the kelim are in atzilus are only koya hagvul, only the effect of gvul, they're not actually mugvul in themselves. The principle of koya hagvul, although we discussed it, it's a little bit elusive, but the question here is, it's clear. How can it be contained in something in kelim which has an element of definition, and that the keli should actually limit this oir? As we pointed out in the mashal of the Abed, Ivri, of the Jewish slave. You call him a slave. But the bli gvul mamash element in him cannot be contained in a keli. Certain things that this is the chitzonius, but the bli gvul mamash, that where he is connected to his master, to the Creator, that you cannot put it on keli. And therefore, this is like a conclusion of this discussion. What it's leading to is that the oir within atzilus, has an inherent definition. It's bli gvul, but it's not bli gvul mamash. We discussed the principle of being bli gvul and not bli gvul mamash. Again, bli gvul means that it is there not by virtue of certain parameters. And bringing down to a very low and simple level, the picture on the wall is on the wall bli gvul. It's not because there's a nail that holds on the picture. That's how it is. That's why it's on the wall. It's on the wall because there's a human spirit that's holding it up. Because this is a human home. A human home has to demonstrate that this is a human home. The human element in this is bligvul. As we said many times, a human being comes into his home and he fills his whole home automatically because it's bligvul. The home to him is not what he can do there, but his presence. This is bligvul. But it is not the bligvul mamash. It is not the human being mamash. It is only how it is expressed in the home. If it were bligvul mamash, you could not hang it up on the wall. What aspect, do I have you with me somewhere? What aspect is demonstrated by hanging a picture on the wall? So yeah, this is a human home. What aspect is demonstrated by hanging a picture on the wall? Aspect of beauty, of history, of some kind of a definitive element. You're not hanging the human spirit on the wall.
You are hanging, or you're
You're
not?
not hanging. The human, you're hanging up on the wall how his seichel defines and identifies him, or his midas.
Those are kalim.
No, this is oil. This oil is put into keli. And this is the oil that's in the seichel. The oil of seichel. In other words, the oil itself is also inherently bounded. That you can put into a keli. But the bligvul mamash, let's put that into words. Bligvul mamash on human level means, what does human life mean? What do we say in the morning? The Shomshan Satabi, and then I'm going to have to give you an answer for what I did here in this world. This is bligvul mamash. This is not neshama. This is God. This cannot be demonstrated. By any kind of means. This is it for this morning. Sorry? Oh.
What time is the sikha tonight?
Yeah.